Hi there, this is Joanne here. Thank you for coming to my channel and welcome. And today I want to chat briefly about the connection between the fascia, which is connective tissue in the body, the fascia, our emotions, and healing. Why stuck emotions, stress, and trauma get stuck in the fascia of the body, and what we can do to move that stuck energy and heal. And at the end of this mini video, I want to take a few minutes to show you a lovely, simple way of communicating with your body that you can do every day, several times a day if you wish, so that you get used to communicating with your body and your body gets used to you responding. And so, in that way, you understand the messages from your body because every day, all day, we are receiving messages in the form of symptoms of pain, aches and pains, illnesses, is primarily messages from the body, but we don't understand it and we need to be able to interpret those messages. So I've been working with clients in healing in person and online for 25 plus years. And in that time, I have felt the fascia, the tissues of the body many, many times on thousands of clients. And I've managed to build up an ability to actually tune into the fascia, and I get intuitive information about the emotion connected to that fascia and the area where it's trapped. And at times, I will also get the age of when the stress or trauma happened. So I've actually built up a lot of my own personal information in my clinic and online, and I want to share some of that with you today. There's an interesting term we use in the alternative healing world, and it's called, the term is interoception. And interoception is the connection between your brain and your body. And a simple way to explain is when we get hungry or thirsty, we know we're hungry because the body tells us, our stomach gurgles or growls. So, in the same way, the brain and the body, the connection is there to warn us and also to give us information. So, if we suddenly get butterflies in our stomach before an exam, for example, or before a test or something stressful, we think, oh, it's the butterflies, it's anxiety because I'm a bit nervous about what's happening. So we're getting these bodily sensations all the time. And that is key because if we can communicate with our body, if we can feel safe in our body and know how to release the stress and how to work with our body, it goes a long way to make our life easier and for us to flow with life and to be in a state of relaxation. Now, I would like to very briefly explain the fight or flight mechanism because that's very important to why we build up stress and why stress gets stuck in the fascia or the connective tissue of our body. The fight or flight mechanism, very simply, is part of the nervous system, and it consists of the sympathetic part, which is the high alert. When we get stressed, it activates the sympathetic part, which is the adrenaline starts flowing, the noradrenaline, all the hormones go right throughout our body. And then the parasympathetic part is when we relax, this relaxation, either when the danger or the stress is over, or when you have a lovely treatment with a healer or therapist, you have that same feeling, oh, the body's relaxed because the stress is been lifted off, or going for a walk in the forest or by the sea, that same feeling of relaxation. Now, in today's world, where life is stressful, we get overwhelmed, we have a shock or there's a stress, we often don't have time to de-stress or to sit with ourselves, or we forget and release that stress that day. So there is often in all of us a buildup of stress over the days, over the weeks, over the months and years. And that's what builds up in our fascia, in our tissues very, very much. And when we have this buildup of stress, it affects the immune system, which has been proved very much on research. And then we often get a cold or we get an illness because the body is run down, the immune system. Stress and the immune system go together. And you know that feeling when you go on holiday and your body knows it can relax because the body is so intelligent. It has its own innate wisdom. Your body relaxes and you get a cold. That happens so often. So with the stress, there was a very well-known book by Dr. Peter Levine, who works with trauma and somatic work, called Awaken the Tiger. That was his first book. And it was called Awaken the Tiger because he spoke about animals in the wild, especially when they were being chased by the tiger, and they were in shock. And when they escaped and they were safe again, they would all shake for quite a few minutes. And the shaking was a natural part of them releasing all the pent up stress. But nowadays, we're not able to do that, or we've forgotten how to do that. And so that stress, that buildup goes into our fascia and it is stored in the tissues of our body. And over time, our immune system changes. And over time, we develop aches or pains, which become so-called symptoms. And those symptoms are messages from the body. And we may even develop illnesses. And every illness and every symptom is very real. It's physical, it is painful. And yet the physical and the emotional are two sides of the same coin. They go hand in hand. There is always an emotional, mental component to the cause of the physical symptom. And in my clinic, I always say to every new client, tell me what's happening in your life right now. They might come in with a back pain or neck pain or an issue or anxiety. And I always say, well, what's happening right now? And if the person says everything seems to be fine, then I will always ask the question, what happened up to 2 years ago? Was there bereavement? Was there trauma? So coming back to the stress, it's stored in our tissues. And fascia, what is fascia? Fascia is a network of communication throughout your body. It covers all the muscles, the organs, and fascia has become very well known in the last 10, 20 years. And there are a lot of workshops on it. There's a lot of scientific research. And a lot of us therapists knew about the stored emotions and stress and trauma in the body. And it was only through the research on fascia over the last few years that it's been proved that it is actually stored in the fascia. And I believe it's stored in the cells as well, because cellular healing is so important. And then there's a knock-on effect on the energy field. So fascia is a communication network. It's a spider web around, as I say, the muscles. It supports the muscles and the bones, and it has a much, much deeper effect. And I've always known that the emotions are in the fascia as well as everywhere else. And they have now discovered that emotions are stored in the fascia. And if you know anything about Chinese medicine, the meridians run through the body. And at one point, there was always the mystery, where about in the body do the meridians run through? And they found on research, updated machinery in the research, that it runs through the fascia. So it's no surprise. And the fascia, you see, is very sensitive to hydration. So if you're dehydrated, it can affect the fascia. It gets very tight and you may feel aching. So if you drink water or if you go for a walk and you move, it loosens up that energy. If I give someone a treatment and I'm doing a few moves on their fascia, it will then loosen up the fascia. And a minute or two later, I can feel the difference. The other very important factor about the fascia, it has very sensitive sensory nerves. It's very sensitive. So it has a connection to the brain emotionally. So when you feel an emotion, something happens, it gets stored there because the fascia remembers the emotion. And because it remembers the emotion, in our bodies, in our minds, it comes across as anxiety or fear and eventually inflammation in the body. So it's very, very clever. And I just feel that this background information is important for you to understand there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. Once you understand the fight or flight mechanism, once you understand that all your stored memories, stress, trauma, difficult incidents from childhood, past lives get stored in your body, then it becomes easier to understand that there are ways to release that. And some of the ways I believe in the ancient energetic exercises like Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, because they've been going for so long and they move the energy as well as physically. And that is key, is to always keep our energy moving because the energy and the physical are the two counterparts. So that is important. And as I said, what we'll do when I finish chatting is for you to connect with your body, check in, and communicate. The other very interesting fact I want to mention, because of the work I do with bodies and energy, is very often people have a symptom. It might be in their knee or in their neck or their shoulder, and they think that's exactly where it is. And then, for example, say someone comes in with a problem with their knee, they may be surprised that I don't work necessarily on the knee. I may work on the pelvis or the shoulder. And the reason has a lot to do with the fascia. There are other reasons, but I'm talking about fascia now. And I may work on the shoulder because I can sense and see and feel that there's restriction in the fascia on their shoulder that's causing the pain in the knee. So that's why it's really important to realize that where your symptom and pain is not where the cause is. And that's why, as therapist healers, we work on different areas of the body. And there was an amazing pioneer in the healing world called Ida Rolf. And she created Rolfing, which is a very deep tissue, very deep, profound form of physical energy work. And she had a famous quote that said, where you think it is, it ain't. Where you think it is, it ain't. Basically saying that very thing, that where you think the problem is, it certainly ain't. It's somewhere else. So what I'd like to do now is for you to relax. You can lie down or you can sit comfortably in your chair. I'm not going to do any healing this time because I would like you to connect with your body and your bodily sensations and see how it feels. A lot of this, some people call somatic work, somatic experiencing. I like to call it connecting and communicating with our body and to sense the messages that come in whatever way it comes. And remember, the language of the subtle senses of the body and the fascia and your energy is different to everyone else. So the key for all of us is to understand the language of our body. So make yourself comfortable. And I'd like you to close your eyes. I always find that is the most important thing to do because when you close your eyes, the distractions of the world disappear and you're more easily able to feel your body and yourself. And as you breathe in and out and relax more into your body and feel your own body, I would like you to take a minute to think about where you have a weakness, perhaps. If you get stressed or upset, where does it go in your body? In many people, it may go into their gut, the stomach area. It may go into your knees or pelvis, into your neck. It may go into your jaw. The jaws get tight. Where does it go for you? I know when I get upset, my throat, the fascia of the throat blocks up because I've had problems with my throat over the years, and I can feel it in my chest. So wherever you feel that there's a weakness where your stress goes, think about where that is. If you don't know, that's absolutely fine as well, because you can tune into your whole body. And while we're doing this exercise, you may feel drawn to a particular area. Where you found that area in your body, you can put your hands there. So if it was your stomach, you can put your hands over your gut area. If it was your throat, you put your throat if you wish. And now in your mind, I want you to take your awareness to the area of concern. I want you to take your awareness to that area, wherever it is in the body. And if you don't know where it is, as I said, either ask to be taken to a particular area that is important for you today to communicate, or just sit with your body and see what happens. So take your awareness to wherever it draws you. And the body is literal. This is simple. I want you to speak to your body. You can do it aloud or silently. I want you to say, in whichever words you're comfortable with, please give me a message. Tell me what you would like me to know. How can we work together? Why do I feel anxiety in that area every time there's a stress? Is it connected to something in my life? Is it connected to something that happened? I'm just giving you some ideas. And when you start asking one or any of these questions, this is the interesting part. An answer may or may not come. If it doesn't, it may come tomorrow or next week. But the intuitive answer from the body is usually subtle and quick. You may get a thought in your head. There may be a memory popping up. You may have a knowing from somewhere. It may be telepathic. Anything that comes up, you may have an impression, and you may very often have an emotion that suddenly comes up, like sadness or grief or anger. And that is the message. And whatever you get, I'm going to give you a minute to sit with that and process. Maybe a color. It may be visual. I would like you to thank that part of your body, give gratitude for any message or flash of insight that you were given. And if not, it very often comes later in the day when you're not thinking. Give thanks to that part of your body. And take a moment to come back to yourself. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. And if you have a piece of paper handy, write anything down so you don't forget. And this is a really good exercise to start with every day, twice a day, to tune into your body, to get used to your own bodily sensations, and to get used to talking to parts of your body to see what it has to say. I've been doing that for years with my throat, and it has made a massive difference, because I can feel when my throat constricts, I know there's something going on. And then when I'm on my own, I will talk to that area to find out so the stress doesn't get locked in there. So I would love to hear if you found this useful, what happened in that exercise, and anything else you would like to say. Please feel free to drop a line in the comments or any feedback. And I would love it if you could press the button to subscribe or share with anyone you think may need this. I'll see you next time for our next lovely video. Bye for now.